If it was to be Humphrey and myself against threats such as these, we would have to work better as a team. Charging recklessly into the fray was no longer good enough. We would have to be strategic, thoughtful, and most importantly, look out for each other. I had Humphrey display a new banner, one that would inspire calm in the heat of battle, and I prioritized other aspects of my skills. After these preparations, Humphrey and I felt refreshed, and our bond tightened. The effects of this were immediate. Unexperienced as we were fighting in this way, we still managed to vanquish those which had humbled us. My forecast view of the life of an adventurer was clarifying into something other. Even the magnificent Galadriel had made no mention of the part to play by Humphrey. But perhaps she had foreseen us become such a team that we were as one to her. My reflection also dwelt on the descriptive words used for me. I had not failed to notice that I was named a hero and respectable by those who had not been in Archet. Those who had, Gale and Maida, had not used such favourable words. There was something deeper there, but as of yet, I could not puzzle out its meaning. Within that camp we found a letter. It was vague, and I could not discern its meaning, but it mentioned the name Ellie Cutleaf. Constable Underhill would know more, so I held on to the letter for him. I also found the lockbox mentioned by Constable Sageford here, and slipped it into my cavernous pockets. With this wolf dealt with, I had slain a sufficient quota of the troublesome beasts. Continuing on, I reclaimed what I believed to be Sally's chain, and was relieved to see it resembled a collar. Finding what seemed to be an overgrown vegetable patch, I guessed I had come across old Bauman's farm. The Blackwolds clearly had no eye for horticulture, which angered me further. It was one thing to seize a farm for its output, and another to then run it into the ground. I had let myself and Humphrey down by not quelling this anger, and we had to once again retreat out of the woods. Lessons had been learned, and it was no great matter, for I had managed to find a letter on the corpse of the farm leader.
What do you need?
Taylor Green was then able to continue logging for more wood. Ominously, he mentioned his worry that the Blackwolds might try to raid Staddle, which would require even more lumber. I could only hope his fears would not become realized.
It's a sorry day.
Old Bauman was thankful for the return of his hound's chain. It was all he had left of her, and I felt for his sentimentality. Returning to Combe, I quickly spoke with Ted about his father's treasure.
Can't you leave me to my misery? Might I take a moment of your time?
He was dismayed, but believed the loggers at the camp may have remembered which stump belonged to the hanging tree.
What can I do for you?
I delivered the letter to Sageford. It contained business dealings between the Blackwolds and a Rurik Fennel living within Combe.
Can I speak with you a moment?
I would have to have words with this crafter of lockboxes, and wondered if this was perhaps the spy that Underhill had mentioned.
What do you need? Stay a moment.
I also showed him the lockbox, and he expressed a virtuous desire to sell the contents to aid some of the victims of the raids. However, it was of course locked. Fortunately, the initials RF were carved on the lock, so that made things relatively obvious. I also promised to look out for more strongboxes.
How do you do? Might I speak with you a moment?
Constable Underhill was not surprised by Ellie Cutleaf's involvement, and thought up an idea for me to present as a brigand myself, try to get recruited to the Blackwolds, and hopefully learn the whereabouts of the leaders, and then possibly Amdir.
How can I be of service?
Gale thanked me for bringing back her father's fishing rod, and kindly asked if I could give it to the pond by the Hunter's Lodge in Archet, her father's favourite fishing hole. I dare say I did not expect to be returning to Archet so soon, but it seemed a trifling matter.
Might I take a moment of your time?
The fittingly named Burl Beeman then asked if I could let one Lolo in Staddle know that he was keen to resume his trade of honey for pipeweed. The return of normalcy to this besieged region would do much for the people's morale, so I was happy to do so. But not until all had been settled in Combe.
What do you need?
Conversing with Rurik revealed that he had only worked with the Blackwolds under duress. They had also forcefully taken the poor man's master key, but he had at least heard the ringleader's name, Applewood.
What do you need? Could I speak with you a moment?
Sageford shared my sympathies concerning Rurik and thankfully had heard of the name Applewood. A scout had seen him head towards the Blackwolds' main encampment in Chetwood. If I could find him, I could collect the master key. All this clue finding and scouting for the Blackwold leaders would be incredibly time wasting if they all ended up being located within their main encampment. That seemed a little obvious. The most efficient course of action left to me was to try and ingratiate myself within the Blackwolds. However, due to my earlier retreat from the Chetwood, I had been distracted from giving stern words to Maida's son and finding the brave Filbert's handkerchief. Being a man of my word, I put all other appointments on hold until they were completed. Finding Covell Woodwright was easy enough. The perfidious youth was acting sentry at the entrance to some old ruins.
What do you need?
While I understood the man's aimlessness, the course he had chosen could not be further from a just one. Taking up my axe, I grimaced at the task he had forced upon me. To my relief, Covell ran while raving about his mother's understandable concern. I could not prevent my lips from stretching into a patronizing smirk. The root of his rebellious actions were not much further from that of an ordinary young man, exaggerated by the extenuating circumstances. Deep within my chest, I felt that his soul was not forfeit. Following some thorough searching, I had managed to track down the venerable hobbit's handkerchief. Unfortunately, it was in the possession of a resilient Blackwold. Having the curtain withdrawn on the malevolence of the Blackwolds due to the humanity of Covell's case had made uncomfortable slivers of my own consciousness protrude to the forefront of my mind. Euthanizing them, I concentrated at the task at hand and returned the garment to friendlier company. I find it hard to dissect the reasoning behind the tide of contentedness that washed over me, caused by the menial nature of returning a handkerchief to a simple hobbit.
Just a moment.
Any instinct to reassess this motion was, however, instantly quashed by Filbert's steadfastness. He vowed to remain, at the least reminding the Blackwolds of their unwantedness. The only thing left to do was speak again with Posco and let him know that Filbert was alright and that next to nothing could be done to sway him from the course of action he had chosen.
Good day.
I wasn't sure what Posco meant by the phrase hobbit sense, but was certain that Filbert didn't need a shred of it.
How can I be of service?
Constable Wren was more pessimistic than I. She had no confidence that Covell would ever return to a more honourable life, and grieved for the news I would have to break to his mother.
Can't you leave me to my misery?
Maida's defensiveness was expected, but she came around sooner than most would. She was still able to give her thanks for checking on him before being suffocated by her own hopelessness. As well as the direct violent consequences stemming from the Blackwolds, I was now seeing more complicated and sinister edges of their corruption. This family had been torn apart, and not simply because one of them had been slain. The increasing instability across the lands had made what were once considered overtly evil organizations gain allure and attraction through a twisted sense of community. Having stuck to my word, I felt more at ease and able to concentrate my efforts. So I left for Ellie Cutleaf's abode. The constant presence of threats and my drive to push forward were slowly lessening to more manageable levels. I had not been able to appreciate the settlement of Combe. It was a quaint town, different to Archit in many ways. It somehow made Archit seem almost militaristic, with its robust walls preventing the spread of its homes and town life from escaping its tight hold. Combe was more scattered, its buildings diffused over a wider area, giving everything more space to breathe, including its residents, and now evidently, myself. The outskirts where Ellie resided were so soothing that I had to take a moment to appreciate and savor its romanticism. Ellie was evidently a hound breeder, and most likely also a trainer. Her house gave ample evidence of this, and while the ambience of the kennel room certainly contrasted the immediate area outside the house, the hounds seemed happy and well cared for.
How can I be of service?
Cut Leaf herself did not impress me at all. She had parted ways with the Blackwolves, but only out of fear. She had helped them breed wolves with a warg, injecting a foul and sinister creature into the local ecology. Worse than that, it had the possibility of breeding, likely creating a host of these unnatural predators. Killing this den mother was now of the utmost importance, and I set out for Skunkwood's farm, the site of this abomination. Ellie's promise of riches had not been worth the risk of her actions. She spoke of a feeling of dread within the Blackwold camp, which had also been mentioned by brave Filbert. These ominous portents hinted at the involvement of powers from Angmar. The mixture of her own greed and damning of her actions only due to fear made it hard to ponder over forgiveness for Ellie. Passing through the loggers' camp reminded me of Ted's hope that one of the workers would remember the location of the old hanging tree.
Greetings.
Mason Thorne supposedly wrote all down in his own ledger, but had lost it, running away from Blackwolds in the Chetwood. I hastily told the man that I would be more than happy to retrieve it. I had already helped deal with the wolves slowing the rate of logging, so it was a shame to hear the Blackwolds themselves were accomplishing the same. The ledger was vast, so I didn't bother reading too much, but a quick skim impressed me. Mason's foresight of upcoming supply and demand issues was a testament to his experience in the industry of logging. Skunkwood's farm showed no sign of human presence, but the threat of the wolves upsetting the entire ecosystem and rapidly growing out of control was hard to miss. Wolves were strewn across the area like locusts. I fought my way through them to reach the hybrid creature, the Den Mother. Not being methodical enough left me besieged from all angles. But with calm and attentiveness toward each other, Humphrey and I coordinated our strength, focusing our assault on the weaker wolves first before committing to the source of all this danger.